Hello and welcome to episode 109 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, we're going to talk about Birds of Prey in the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. We'll also talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, this week's new releases, and I'll tell you about the streams happening over on twitch.tv/seannosaurusrex. Let's start in backwards alphabetical order with Sonic the Hedgehog, mainly because it's the easier of the two movies to talk about. Sonic the Hedgehog is a pleasant surprise. Sonic to me is kind of a joke from a gameplay standpoint. I don't really like his games. He always felt like it was a secondary thing to Mario, and the only real touchstone I have to Sonic was when I was a kid and I got sick. Sometimes I got to go to the hospital place with my mom because she worked at the hospital, and I got to stay there and hang out for the day, and that was all they had was a Sega. So it was kind of like a sick treat, but it's not really a treat if you don't really like it. I guess Sonic would be what is essentially the medicine of video games, where like some people like it for some weird reason, but the vast majority of smart people don't because it's bad. Sorry. I don't really care for Sonic all that much, but that's where the beauty of this movie comes in. I care about Sonic now. They put a Sonic Generations game as a backwards compatible game with gold on Xbox, and I went, I'm going to try it and I'm going to play it because this movie is actually a genuine surprise with how good it is. And I can't believe that I'm saying that. And I can't believe that we live in a world where the vast majority of people understand that there is not only a Sonic movie out, but it's actually good. I think the best part of this movie and the beauty of this movie is that it only brings in two characters from the Sonic universe that you really need to worry about. Sonic the Hedgehog himself, and Dr. Robotnik / Eggman. The thing that makes that so important and so helpful is it's easy to keep track of, and it gives us an opportunity to, or it gives the filmmakers an opportunity to develop those characters and make us at least care about Sonic. I actually think Dr. Robotnik is the worst part of the movie, or the weakest part. It's not all bad, it's just something that didn't really click with me, and it goes for a couple of reasons. I think Jim Carrey does a really good job playing that kind of like unhinged kind of crazy character, but my issue with it is that that's how he starts. Robotnik immediately shows up and he is immediately just a bad guy, and he doesn't really have any sort of personality beyond he's an unhinged kind of off the wall eccentric character. That's all his character development is. Like, he starts at like a 7 on that scale and then works his way up to like a 9 or a 10, and that's not enough for me. What I would have rather seen is Robotnik come in. Maybe he's a little eccentric, maybe he's a little off-kilter, maybe he's a little off-putting, but he's still trying to hold it together. But as soon as he figures out what Sonic is and that he wants to capture Sonic so he can figure out what Sonic is, that's when his character breaks, that's when that shell starts to crumble, and that's when the character actually kind of develops, and it makes more sense for him to be as unglued as he becomes towards the end of the movie. Another thing that I wasn't a super big fan of is there are a couple of times where it feels like the film crew set up a camera, told Jim Carrey, hey, we're going to run this for about 30 minutes. You do you, just hit these like 3 plot points and go, we'll cut it together, no big deal. It's just kind of weird, especially there's like a dance sequence in the like mid section that's just really weird and odd, and I just was like, it didn't feel like it fit, and it just didn't work for me. But that's about the only negative I have. What I liked about the movie was that they developed Sonic and made him an interesting character that I care about, that I walked out being like, I would see a sequel to this movie. I wouldn't necessarily rush out day one, but I liked this enough, and I think they did enough good stuff with it to push this forward to make a well-made, thoughtful, heartfelt, humorous movie. And they give Sonic like stuff to do. He's a lonely person, well, hedgehog. He's a lonely hedgehog who wants so desperately to have a family. That stuff's understandable and relatable. In addition to Sonic the Hedgehog himself, we get to follow James Marsden and Tika Sumpter, who play a husband and wife. I really liked both of their characters. I'm a big fan of James Marsden. He is Cyclops. I love Cyclops very much. You can see him. Look, Cyclops is back there in the back. He's been there for months. But I really liked their characters, and I loved their relationship. I would have liked more of Tika Sumpter in this movie, because there was a point where I was like, man, what happened to Tom's wife? That's who James Marsden plays. And I like kind of forgot that she existed. Like, bring her back. Let her have more to do with the plot of the movie. I really like their relationship, and I thought they bounced well off each other. And it's something that was like, man, I'm really glad with the way this movie kind of works with itself. I like the place that they leave it in for an inevitable sequel. This movie's doing very well at the box office. I liked their chemistry, and I liked the way their relationship was portrayed on screen. The movie moves very fast, as Sonic would, because he's a speed demon, and at an hour and 38 minutes, it keeps things going, which is really nice. It is kind of laughably dumb in a couple of parts. Some of the decisions they make are really stupid, like the government calls in Dr. Robotnik, and it's like, this is a little much. I don't necessarily believe this, but whatever, I'm having a good enough time. There are a couple of really cool sequences that are done in slow motion, or I guess you could say Sonic speed, where he's moving so quickly that everything else is really slow. Think Quicksilver from X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse, and you kind of have a good idea of what you're working with. I really liked the bar fight scene. I thought that was really fun. There is not a whole lot that I really don't like. There's a chase sequence in the middle of the movie that takes way too long, that has like 4 separate sections of it. And it's just like, this is still going. Like, I sat in the theater being like, oh wow, okay, we're still going. Okay, we're still going. All right, maybe this will be the... Nope, there's another one. All right, cool. We can be done with this about 5 minutes ago and kind of move things along. But that's the only time it ever really slows down or anything. But I walked out of it like pleasantly surprised and very happy that this movie feels like there was love and care put into it. And it also took away my worry that this movie was going to be strictly for like a 15 and under audience. There's enough here to pull a 30-year-old man through its heartfelt story, or heartfelt might be like a little like dramatic, but like, there's enough for older audiences to latch on to care about, to where when it does make the inevitable, like, dumb kind of like cringy kid joke, you're like, whatever, you can have one, just don't make it a super big habit. I don't know. It does what it needs to do to establish a universe, to establish a world, to set things up so that you can expand in the future. Sonic is one of the more long-running game franchises, and they definitely have a lot of characters that they could have put into this movie that they thankfully chose not to. They stuck to the basics, and it really paid off. The focus on character really helps establish this universe and gives me something to care about, and I walked out of it so pleasantly surprised, actually looking forward to and interested in a sequel. Our second movie on this week's show is Birds of Prey, and this is another pleasant surprise, and I'm very happy to report that I enjoyed this movie so much. That means we're 2 for 2 on pleasant surprises this week, so it's a good week for movies that I wasn't necessarily expecting a whole lot out of, but they blew my expectations out of the water. Maybe a little bit dramatic in regards to Sonic, but with Birds of Prey, I was very thoroughly shocked with how much I enjoyed it. It's by no means a perfect movie. It has some issues here and there, but I think overall it does a really great job of building characters that I really cared about and liked towards the end of the movie, and it really does a great job of making that climactic moment feel like a climactic moment. This is a much lighter and brighter and simultaneously darker and more sinister movie than we've seen in a lot of the DCEU stuff, and I think that's what makes this movie so special. I like that it's able to balance humor and more off-the-wall characters with darker themes and more sinister villains. The villains being particularly magnificent in this movie, especially Ewan McGregor as Roman Sionis. Absolutely nails it out of the park with this character that is built so incredibly interestingly. He has all these tics and things that make him flip, but he's so genuinely unnerving and sinister and unpredictable in such a darkly fun way to watch that I wanted more of him. And that actually leads into what I think is the weakest part of this movie, and that is it's connected to Suicide Squad. The problem is, and I'm not going to sit here and shit on Suicide Squad. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's an Academy Award winning movie. Let that sink in. Best hair and makeup. I cannot believe that movie won a fucking Oscar. Anyway, it being connected to Suicide Squad means that this movie spends a lot of time divorcing itself from Suicide Squad, and unfortunately that comes at the cost of a couple of characters, starting with Roman Sionis. For as much as I liked him, I wanted more of him, and I think he needed maybe an extra scene or two to really punch in how awful of a character he is. He is the perfect example of that Batman ideal of they're just regular people doing things. This person just happens to be incredibly rich and able to buy people off and control the city in very evil and terrible ways. And I like that idea. There aren't any real superpowers in play here with him. He's just a rich dude who's pissed off and has all these personality quirks that make him a dangerous person. I love that. I just wanted more of him, partially because I think his character needs just a smidge more fleshing out, but more so because I just loved Ewan McGregor in that role so much. The second character that could use a little bit more explanation is the right hand second in command. I won't name them because I think they're a very fun surprise, and I didn't really see where I was going until they said their name, and I was like, oh shit, like it's kind of right there if you're paying attention, but if you're maybe not familiar with it, it's a really good, I don't know if it's like a deep cut pick, but it's definitely a notch lower than some of the more obvious answers. Why I think this character needed more explanation is I never took them very seriously. Like, they only ever succeeded in being evil because they were put there by someone above them, in this case, Roman Sionis. So whenever they're doing something, I'm sitting there being like, I don't believe you because I haven't seen you act out on your own. You're just under orders, and I didn't find them that scary or effectively intrusive to our heroes or anti-heroes' main goals. They were just kind of like, you're kind of just like a speed bump, you know, in the way. Like, and the other reason is, why is this person who seems like kind of dumb, how are they the number 2? I needed like a little bit more, like they hint at why this character is in this position, but I think it needed an extra scene or two. And that's going to kind of be a running theme with this. An extra scene or two would have really helped to flesh out that idea to make me believe that they are as scary as they think that they are. The third character, and I would argue the most important character that gets a little shortchanged in the screen time, is actually Huntress. I get her backstory and I understand how that correlates with her personality, but it was definitely one of those things that I looked at and I was like, this needed a bridge to fully explain why she is the way she is now versus then. Like, her personality definitely sticks out between the 5 main birds of prey that we're working with, and like it just felt off, but I couldn't quite pinpoint why it was off. Thinking about it after the movie, I was like, okay, I think I understand it, but I just wanted a couple more, again, that 1 or 2 more scenes thing with her to flesh her out just a little bit more. I also really like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I liked her character. I thought she was very cool. I wanted more. And that's the thing that I keep going back to with this movie, is I wanted more of it. I walked out of it being like, I would see a sequel today. I want a sequel like right now. Where do they go with this? Are they going to introduce Poison Ivy? Like, what's their next step? What's their next plan? I really like the movie that much. There is a little bit of a weirdness in the way the story is told, and they do try to get around it from a cutesy perspective of having Harley Quinn narrate it, but there are a couple of times where it builds up to something only for her to acknowledge, with the audience breaking the fourth wall, going, oh wait, you don't know why this is important, let's rewind. And it does that, and it just kind of throws the flow off a little bit. But because this movie is so connected to Suicide Squad, it kind of has to do that. And I did like the fourth wall break. I really like when the narrator has fun with us, the audience, and understands that that they're in a movie, essentially. I like the concept. I like the way that when characters show up, she gives a little bit of a backstory of like, oh, this person's mad at me for this. Like it flashes like a name and then like a grievance. And there's even one character who's like, you know, it could be a lot of things, and the screen flashes through like a ton of different options of what it could be. I really liked Black Canary in this movie. I thought she was absolutely fantastic. I she was the one that I wanted the most more from, if that makes sense. Like, I liked her so much. She's just so awesome, and I loved watching her character arc and her character development throughout the film. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I love the way they teamed up. I thought it worked really well. I liked some of these set piece action stuff more towards the end. There were a couple of action sequences in the beginning and the middle that I thought were like kind of like, boy, this is really kind of just here to be here. I like the Black Canary like alley fight sequence. I like Harley Quinn's fighting style. It's very like gymnastic and really interesting, like visually, all the flips and the way she works around her environment to gain the upper hand, I thought was really cool. Something that I thought they could have worked a little bit more with Harley Quinn on is using her PhD. They specifically point out that she has a PhD in psychology, and it works really well when she is faced with Roman Sionis in like an interrogation, and she immediately pegs exactly what's wrong with him. She's like, oh, you're going to give me this big bad guy speech, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. It's a really funny interaction that really sets the tone for the rest of the movie, where she does not like Roman does not like her, and now that Harley is no longer under the Joker, she's kind of the weird term like free game, which means that there's no one protecting her, and she's out on her own. I get that the main emotional thrust of the movie is Harley Quinn gaining her independence and figuring out what to do without the Joker. I just think that in this specific context, it's something that they've been working on in the comics, is kind of making her her own independent character and kind of fixing some of the stuff, because the relationship that she has with the Joker is like genuinely terrible and is like literally textbook abuse. But they've been trying to fix that and change it around. And I thought that this was the opportunity for them to say, hey, we're not really associated with Suicide Squad. We like Margot Robbie. We're going to keep her in this role. I think she's very good in this movie. I think actually the entire cast is really great in this movie. This is their opportunity to just go like, hey, we're starting fresh. We're giving Harley Quinn her origin story. There is no Joker. The Joker was never a part of this. You can figure something else out. You're creative people. You can work on this idea of something else that doesn't have to be through the funnel of her romance with the Joker. I get that DC really wants to keep everything connected. Their movies are a mess. They don't work. Like, their stuff is so hit or miss. People like Wonder Woman. I really like Shazam. I liked this. People are not super hot on Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, or Man of Steel. We're getting a Batman movie that is not connected. We have a Joker movie that is the worst fucking piece of trash that has ever existed. It's also not connected. DC's in a really weird spot, and this movie wouldn't exist if it didn't falter so hard in the beginning. And I'm glad that this movie exists in the way it does. I would change a couple things here or there, but I think with the outline that they're working with, and I think with the style that they're working with, I think they do a really good job of creating these characters. I really liked like Rosie Perez as Montoya. I thought she was great. She's like a bad 80s cop, and I love the way that they play with that, and like again, fourth wall breaking, like point that out. The t-shirt gag that she has is very funny. They do a really good job of building this world and building these characters that I care about and that I want to see more. It's just so unfortunate that the marketing for this movie has been so bad, and it's bad in the weirdest of ways. I didn't really care about this movie until like the third full-length trailer came out, and that's a problem because it shouldn't ever take 3 full-length trailers for someone to care about a movie. I'll give you like a teaser and a full-length. That's technically 2, but I think that's more than enough to give me an idea of your tone and your concept, and then give me some movie footage to be like, okay, this looks cool. But this movie took a really long time to kind of get in gear and to figure out exactly how to market it. The problem is their marketing was weird because they decided to use the character names instead of the actor names. So they kept being like, it's Black Canary and Huntress and Harley Quinn in Birds of Prey, which seemed to cause a lot of confusion because people kept searching Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn, by the way, is at the end of this title, which is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn makes it really hard to search for, because there's no way that's ever going to show up on like a movie reader board or an online ticketing thing, because if you don't know, the words fantabulous and emancipation are very, very long, so that pushes Harley Quinn all the way off. It seemed to cause so much confusion that WB actually came in and fixed it on ticketing websites to say Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey. And even as someone who's seen the trailer several times, I continually referred to it as the incorrect title because of the way this movie was advertised. So unfortunately, there are probably a lot of people that would have gone out to go see this movie who probably would have really liked this movie and gotten that word of mouth kind of going and spinning, that just didn't, because of the way this movie was marketed. And that's really unfortunate, because people are missing out on a genuinely good movie that is a lot of fun. It has a really great mix of tone of like being consistently pretty funny and kind of out there, but also dealing with a character or a villain that is so darkly sinister, and the way it balances that stuff I thought was fantastic. I loved the characters. I thought the performances were great. Some of the action sequences, especially towards the end, are really kinetic and fun. I loved the set piece stuff that they do with those sequences. It's a great movie, and it's too bad that a lot of people are probably missing out on it because of some questionable marketing. But if the movie looks at all interesting to you, I highly recommend that you check it out. I really liked it. It's probably my favorite movie that I've seen so far this year. Granted, this might sound bad, but I don't mean for it to. It's been a little bit of a slow start as far as like high quality movies coming out so far. That's not meant to downplay how good or how much I like Birds of Prey, but this was such a pleasant surprise that I wasn't expecting, and I'm so happy to report back that I enjoyed this movie so much. And I think that if you're at all interested, please go see it. It's great. It's really great. Please, and WB, give us a sequel. I'll be there day one. I would have been there sooner, but I got sick. But please, sequel. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at the week's new releases. It's a pretty quiet week as far as Blu-rays are concerned. Only Knives Out is out this week, and then the theater releases are also quiet as well. Just The Invisible Man. The games are a little more exciting. House Flipper is out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. 2 Point Hospital is out on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch, and it is available on Game Pass if you have that on the Xbox. So you can play it if you have Game Pass Ultimate. It's on PC and on the aforementioned Xbox One, and Sayonara Wild Hearts hits on Xbox One. It's been on the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch for a while. It's also has a lot of widespread critical acclaim and looks very cool. Hopefully I will get to play it soon. Speaking of games that I'm going to play, this week's streams are as follows. Friday is going to be the March Mascot Madness 2 First Four hype stream. So if you'd like to watch some basketball and get excited for the March Mascot Madness team, 4 teams will be taking each other on, and will determine a little champion. I will also take you through the bracket one more time so that you can make picks along with the stream should you so choose. And if you are watching this and you're like, wow, that sounds really fun, I want to make my bracket right now, you can go back. There's a video on YouTube that goes through every single matchup, has some stats and statistics. The stream that I do on Friday won't have nearly as much information. I'll just flip through the matches really quick, but it should still be fun. On Saturday is going to be a split stream between Bus Simulator and Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. And then on Sunday, March Mascot Madness 2 tips off 4 p.m. Get excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's your deadline. Sunday, when that stream starts, I will cut off the bracket submissions. So get your brackets in now. And then on Monday, we'll finally get back on to Super Mario RPG, which I believe I have said every week for the last 4 episodes, but this will be the one. This will be the one. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, you can scroll on down and you can hit that subscribe button. You can also ring the bell so that you get notified when this dumb face puts up new videos. Don't worry, they're fun, and I'm not actually that dumb. I'm kind of smart sometimes. If you like the content that much, you can scroll down a little bit further. You can leave me a comment down in the comment section below. You can tell me why Birds of Prey was so awesome. You can tell me why Sonic was so surprising. You can let me know if there's anything coming out that you're looking forward to that I'm missing out on. Be sure to head on over to twitch.tv/seannosaurusrex and check out the streams on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then check back right here every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week. And scene.